Hello FLM members and welcome back to part 2 of the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 87. That's April 2019. So we've got a picture here of Kate French, the pentathlete, swimming, just shot earlier this month. You can read all about that shoot in the pentathlete feature in this issue. So let's go through the post-production on this picture, and as usual I'm going to show you the before and after. So there you see on the left we've got the picture straight out of the camera in colour, and on the right the black and white image. One of the reasons I chose to shoot this whole project in black and white was because of the kind of lighting situations I'm working in gyms and swimming pools and the like. And as you can see, I think the colours in that picture are just a little bit sickly and a bit distracting. I think the black and white enables me to really focus more on the form of the picture, on the energy, on the sheer grit of Kate doing her endless lengths. So let's work then through the processing. Go back to the start of the picture, and I'm going to come down here to import, how I imported the image into the okay, first thing to do is look at this image, and the first thing I'm going to do is just click on black and white. Now I could of course choose to use some of my presets which I've done in previous times when working on black and white images, but in this case I've gone through them. I don't particularly like the look of any of them, so I'm going to go just click on black and white, convert the image to black and white, and now I need to start thinking about how I'm going to process this picture. Okay, well, the very first thing to do is look as usual at my black and my white points, and I can see from these reds here that I'm clipping the image quite a bit. Clipping a few highlights there in the reflected water. That doesn't worry me at all. In fact, I'm going to sacrifice a few more highlights because a few clipped highlights in the specular reflections off the water are really not the end of the world there. So I'm going to go up to plus 26 or so on my whites. At the moment, the image is reasonably well exposed, but I think it's a bit sort of dark and dingy and grey. So let's go up here to come down to look at my blacks, and I'm going to grab the shift key on my keyboard, use blacks, grab the blacks, move the black slider a bit to the left. Again, I'm going to sacrifice just a few blacks in the darkest part of the image, just in the name of enhancing the contrast of this picture. I want punchy, contrasty black and white images, quite bright, quite high key. I don't want dark and dingy pictures. So with that in mind, I'm now going to look at my tone curve here, and I'm going to brighten the image quite a bit. As I've said, with my post-production, in black and white, I tend to do things much more extreme than I would normally do in my colour. And I'm looking here at this image there. That's got much more the feel I want to this image. I've chosen this picture here, by the way. Let's just go back into library mode. I've chosen this picture. I've got much more tighter shots of her, but I really like the lines on in the swimming pool there, the strong lines. And as you can see, I've used a relatively slow shutter speed. Come down here to look at our metadata there. I've used 1/10 of a second exposure at f9 with the 70 to 200 mm lens at 70 mm, ISO 400. I'm shooting with the 1DX Mark II here, and panning as she swims past me to get that motion blur. But if we zoom in close, you can see it's nice and sharp actually on her face, and the bit of motion blur on the water in the background. So I think this picture's worked quite well. So that's really given me the kind of bright high key look I want just by adjusting this tone curve here. I'm going to go to about that. But what I'm going to do now is concentrate the attention of the viewer onto Kate by using the radial filter here. Click on it up here, click there, the radial filter. And now what you do is you just basically select a radius, select a circle. I'm going to click that off for the moment. And I can choose to alter the shape, make it much more oblong. What in fact I'm doing here is I'm going to darken the image down around Kate. So essentially she's the star attraction. We want to make sure that all attention is focused on her. So I'm going to feather that selection quite up to the maximum there. What that's doing is meaning that any adjustments I make will be nice gradual transition around that oblong circle there. Okay, now I'm going to come up here to my exposure slider and just bring down the exposure. So I'm darkening the picture around Kate, but not really adjusting her at all, because just going to alter the size of that circle a bit there and bring it down there. And what we normally do with images is we use a lens profile corrections to cure the vignetting of pictures of lenses, of vignetting or the unequal coverage of lenses, which results in darker corners. But what I'm doing here is actually accentuating that. It can be quite a useful feature there. Okay, I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's worked okay. Let's just look. I'm going to even brighten up the overall picture even more. And now I'm going to use the grad tool here. Go up to grad and just bring that down from the top of the image here. And just pull back my highlights there on the grad tool, and just a touch of exposure as well. Too much, it's too heavy that. So I'm going to use the shift key on my keyboard to bring that back a bit. Just a hint, minus 0.08 has done that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same at the bottom of the image here too as well. So use the grad, drag it up from the bottom, holding the shift key down so that it's coming in level. Of course, I don't actually need it level. I need it more in line with the lane markers. So I'm actually now going to rotate that a touch there. And again, come down on my exposure, a hint. Done. Right, step back, look at the picture, and ask myself how it looks. I still want Kate a bit brighter. So what I'm going to do is use the adjustment brush here now and click on Select Mask Overlay. And this is just going to paint in the area of the picture that I want to select. It's essentially her face there and the form of her swimming, that kind of area. You know, I shot thousands, literally, of images that morning, but there's so many where the form of her arm, for example, in this kind of picture just looks a bit weird. So I've gone too far with that. I don't want to brighten up her white cap there. So what I can do is now come here to erase. Actually come to, erase just here. And now I just erase out that bit on her cap. This is just, again, it's just selecting the area that I want to adjust. Okay, now click on Show Selected Mask Overlay. So takes that off. And now what I want to do is just brighten that area up a touch. About plus 15, I think, maybe a bit more, plus 20. Again, it's really difficult to get that accurate, so I'm going to highlight the actual numerical value there and then use the Shift key. And that's brightened her up nicely. Let's go to Done, and let's look at the before and after of the picture now. Yeah. The key is, if I go back to the black and white images, do any of the adjustments look too heavy-handed? I don't think so. What I'm actually going to do now is just crop the image a touch. I'm going to go to the 16:9 format there, and no, I'm not. I thought that would work well, but I'm not so sure. So let's just come back on that. If in doubt, do nothing. That's always the best. In fact, I'm going to crop it. I'm going to keep my aspect ratio, and just by clicking on the padlock there. It's just this corner up here that's bugging me a bit. So I'm going to come in and just crop that out a touch. And I think that's it. Okay, good. How's that look? Better. Still that white bit just at the top corner there, top left corner. That's irritating, isn't it? So go back to my crop tool. I want Kate to be just oriented to the right of the frame, so just in a bit tighter. And now, yeah, that's it. Okay, so how's that worked? Pretty well, I think. And that's it. I'll now export the picture. So thanks for your attention. We'll be doing more in the next issue. And as always, send in your suggestions for what you'd like to see in future editions. Thank you.